Hello, welcome back, my favorite movement enthusiasts, to today's session of core strength. Having adjusted my video titles to the current YouTube meta, today we will be going through all kinds of core and ab related exercises, working on our core strength by going through it in a more scientific way, adding static exercises, dynamic exercises, going through flexion, extension and rotation, and basically having progressions for every single aspect of core strength, so you can start out as a beginner or you can directly go to the more skill requiring advanced exercises. So if you're ready, let's go and have some fun. So when we're talking core strength, most people automatically think about crunches and sit-ups and laying down leg raises, stuff like that. And while this has its merits, for instance, being the most accessible kind of way to train your core, it is not the most effective. Even if they're not the most effective way to get a strong and resilient core, they are still very beneficial. So we will start out in laying down position with our very first progression for today. And this progression will mostly go through spinal flexion, or the rounding of the back, which is one of the major functions of our core musculature. Starting out position, easiest exercise first, both hands on your legs, and we're gonna go through crunches. Very short range of motion, very easy, not much else to explain. We're gonna move up from this one to extended legs and sit-ups, which are a little bit easier than doing sit-ups with your feet flat on the ground, because this is going to require a little bit more hip flexor strength as well as a little bit of quadricep strength, which is very beneficial when you are working on your core, because adding the rest of the musculature that surrounds our core will help us in the long run advance our abdominal strength as well. So now that we've gone through the crunches and the sit-ups, we will start with the easiest leg raise or leg pull exercises. Both hands right there below your butt so you can bring your back into full contact with the ground. Extend your legs and start with pulling them in like so. The more you pull in with a bend, the easier the exercise. If you raise your head and your chest a little bit, we're gonna add some top abdominal work as well. So now we're combining our lower abdominals with our top abdominals. Next exercise would be extended legs and pull them in as close as you can. Keep them fully extended. Now once again, we have some hip flexors and quad strength included in this exercise to keep our legs completely extended. Once we're done with this one, we can move on to the next exercise, pulling in and extending. Now we even have some back musculature included, which is part of our core musculature. Pull in, extend in a controlled fashion, reverse and reverse separately. One more time, extend and reverse. Now here you have 6 to 7 exercises, more upper core dominant exercises with the crunches and the sit-ups, and more lower dominant exercises with the pull-ins, the extended pull-ins and the pull-to raises. Having gone through the major flexion exercises, we can start adding some rotation for our obliques as well. Once again, starting with the easiest exercise first, both hands on the left leg and crunches to the side. The same goes, of course, for the other direction. Crunches to the side, very short movements. Our lower back stays in contact with the ground. Next up, once more, legs extended, and we're gonna sit up with some rotation, touch the ground, reverse and repeat. The more we turn to the side, the more engagement we have in our obliques, the more we include musculature surrounding our core as well. All the way down, all the way up, and rotate, touch down. The same thing, once again, gets a little bit harder once we put our feet on the ground, because we need a little bit more of our hip flexors again, and we can push us deeper into this rotation. So all the way down, all the way up, and turn. Be sure not to use too much momentum. We want to go through a controlled movement and not momentum controlled movement. Now, of course, we have lower abdominal focused rotational exercises as well. Open your arms sideways, pull those legs in, and rotation to the left, rotation to the right. And of course, you've definitely noticed that if we extend our legs and do the rotations like so, now we're gonna require a lot more strength. All the way to one side and all the way to the other side. Be sure that your shoulders stay in complete contact with the ground so we have a longer range of motion for our core musculature. So now that we're done with the exercises laying on our ground, we're gonna progress to the next stage, exercises in a quadrupedal position or starting out on all four. Hands outwards, shoulder width apart with arms and legs. Now there are multiple things we can do. We can work the right side with the left side, going into diagonal flexion like so and extending once more. We're actively working on our back musculature as well as our hip extensors and our hip flexors. So now we have most of the musculature that is close to our core muscles included in what we are doing. Pull in and extend. Not to mention that when working like so, we will have a lot of stabilization requirements, which is one of the other most important functions when it comes to core and core work. Being able to stabilize your body when we are not standing in a stable position. And the stronger you get with your core, the better the stabilization effect is going to become. You're gonna notice that if you increase the intensity of this exercise by raising your knees from the ground. So now we have a lot more strength as well as stabilization requirements, and we are working our core a lot harder, and all we did is raise our knees from the ground from a quadrupedal position. Now, if this exercise is a little bit too hard for you, you can still work with only your legs like so, and over time start extending your arm, hold statically. Once you're really good at holding this statically, then you can start with the dynamic work, and once you're really good at that, then you can raise your knee and start with the elevated hop dynamic work. I almost lost it there. Next exercise in the quadrupedal position, we will raise our knees from the ground, push back all the way and push forward into a plank position before we reverse once more. This way we can add some upper body strength, specifically our arms to our core work and our legs as well. We're always ending in a plank position, which will require a little bit of core strength, and the longer you hold it between the repetitions, the harder the exercise will become. So now that we've worked on a handful of exercises in the quadrupedal position and ended it in a plank position, this is where we will continue with plank exercises. The threshold for planks is really low if you start with the easiest ones, and progressively gets harder and harder, which is what we're going to demonstrate now. Starting with the easiest plank position you can do on your arms and on your knees. This is the lowest level you can work from. If you don't feel anything from here, now you can start elevating your knees and holding like so. This one is even easier than if you would work on your hands, because now we have to work with our arms as well, and if they are a little bit less strong than your core, then this is what we will give out first. So once you are here, you can't hold it anymore, but your core still needs a little bit of work. Then we move down, hold it here a little bit longer, and then we can release. So this is the first triple level progression for planks. We've got this one, we've got this one, and we have this one. So now we can start adding a little bit more intensity to our plank work with either working on one foot or raising a leg. We're going to require a little bit more balance for this exercise. Moving even a step further, we're going to work on the back of our feet, extend our shoulders, and push our upper body into this rounded flexion in our spine for a hollow pose hold or for a planche-like hold position. For now, we are working with our hands directly beneath our shoulders, and if you want to make it harder, you can move forward and forward and forward, and at some point you will notice that your shoulders are being worked a lot more than your core, at which point you can move backwards again. Release the tension in your shoulders, keep them long however, and then you can move forward once more. On the same difficulty level, we would have the staggered plank, especially if we lower down a little bit instead of keeping our arms fully extended. You can start out like so and move closer to the ground to add a little bit more of your larger musculature, like your chest, shoulders, and arms to the whole exercise, while still keeping that core very tight. Of course, you will have to switch the stagger like so. You can raise a leg, you can come closer to the ground, and you can play around with it a little bit, add some aspects that you find to be most fun when working in a plank, because the plank itself isn't that much fun. Unless you're trying to do a little bit more advanced work, which will be moving our hands further forward and forward and forward. Now, the lower we go, and the closer we go to the ground, the more strength we will require with this so-called lane plank, which is a very low, very extended plank. And I can already feel it, and I'm pretty sure you can see it. Opa! Now that we have at least half a dozen different plank positions that we can work from for static core strength. So now we started with dynamic core strength, added some static core strength. Now we're gonna go into the skill territory, which requires a lot of strength, a little bit of mobility, and a little bit of coordination to get into this position, which will be the L-sit. Now, the L-sit is one of the more advanced core exercises because it has a lot of moving parts, but we will go through it in a progression once more so you can learn it as a beginner and work your way to the end product, which will be on your fingers, arms extended, legs extended, and raised, holding for 10, 20, 30, or a full minute if you're really strong. I'm not that strong, like 20 seconds is the max I can do. Maybe it will surpass me, which I really hope. Now, to make the L-sit progression a little bit easier, we can use the yoga blocks, and I'm gonna show you how later. If you don't have any of those, having a couple of books that are the same height will absolutely suffice. Our starting position for this exercise will be seated, fully upright, legs completely extended. If you're having problems with sitting like that and you're feeling too much of a stretch in your posterior chain, or you're falling backwards because of a lack of core strength, you know that we have to do some work. If you can sit like this, then you are already ready to start with the progression for the L-sit. First exercise, pull in that leg and extend. Pull in that leg and extend. We want to combine our core with our hip flexors and our quads because we're going to need them later. Pull in, extend, pull in, extend. Next exercise, elevated, extended leg raises. Up and down, up and down. We'll do the exercise dynamically, and then we're going to add static holds with the last repetition. Up, hold for 10 and release. Up, hold for 10 and release. So you can move on to add our upper body as well. Hands flat on the ground and raise up. And now we can start using the blocks next to us to make things a little bit easier, because now we can raise up higher and repeat the whole process again. Pull in, extend, pull in, extend, and next to the core strength and the hip flexor strength, we're also working on our arms and shoulders to keep us up here. Pull in and extend, and of course we have the extended raises, left side, right side, and then the extended raise, hold, and of course, once we've gone through all the repetitions, static holds for 10, release, hold for 10, and release. So now we can add a little bit more core strength to the entire exercise, once again by raising, and we're gonna be doing the forward fold, not only to work on our posterior chain stretch, so we don't need to work on the flexibility separately when we want to get into the L-sit, but also to work on that static strength when folding forward with our arms extended and our legs elevated. Hold for 10 and reverse. Dynamic repetitions, and in the end we hold once more statically for 10. And now we can finally start trying to raise into the L-sit. First with one leg, sit down all the way, raise with the other leg, sit down all the way, and repeat. Over time, you will notice it's getting really easy. Now I can start elevating, putting the legs up, and sitting down. We only want to hold for a second or two. Repeat and release. Over time, holding it will be a lot easier, and once we are really good at holding it with our arms, elevate it. Now we can start working on adding the strength in our hands, because if you're only on your hands flat, then you don't have too much space to raise your legs. However, if you're working on your fingertips, now it is a lot easier to just hold like so, which means that we will start putting our fingers on the ground, get up and lower down, get up and lower down. Next stage, you probably guessed it, elevate, pull in, extend, pull in, extend. Next level, extended raises, and next level, static, extended raises. And if you go through this progression, I can guarantee you not only will you have an absurdly strong core, but you will also be able to do the L-sit, which is a very advanced calisthenics core exercise, because that is a sign that your entire anterior chain is pretty damn strong. That's always a good thing. So now that we've seen the exercises and the progressions, let's talk about programming. We will work on the dynamic exercises for half a minute to a minute. That's the aim, to get there with every single round. And we want to do 2 to 3 rounds with every single dynamic exercise. As for the static holds, start by aiming for 10 seconds and move up to 1 full minute when it comes to the whole plank position things, as well as the extended leg raises. 20 to 30 seconds should be more than enough. Of course, go through multiple versions of exercises. So take a little bit from the sit-up and crunches aspect, take a little bit from the planks aspect, and of course, take a little bit from the L-sit aspect as well. There you basically have it. We have gone through flexion, extension, rotation, we've gone through static and dynamic exercises, and pretty much anything and everything that can strengthen your core so you can work on that bulletproof core. Now, just in case, this is not about getting visible abs, this is about core strength. If you want to have visible abs, then your main focus will definitely be getting into a calorie deficit and reducing fat content in your body. With that said, sadly, that's all the time I have left for you today. However, if you like the video and subscribe, and please check out other videos on this channel, because we literally have new ones every single day, and I'm not even joking. So until tomorrow, Captain Cairo, peace out.